How to run a totalitarian society. Step 1. Create the problem. Step 2. Spread panic to artificially inflate the problem. Step 3. Make people beg you to find a solution to the problem. Step 4. Use their dependence on you to your advantage and abuse your power. Step 5. Rinse and repeat. Hello everyone, so this will be my video about COVID-19 and my thoughts on the current crisis and what's to come. First of all, what makes this virus so dangerous? Well, for most people, this virus is not particularly dangerous or even lethal. However, it does pose a significant threat to those whose immune system is already impaired and who have a history of respiratory problems. And what makes it so scary on a global scale is the infection rate. So you are very likely to catch the virus at some point, but if you're lucky and you're not in the risk group, you will be an asymptomatic carrier of the virus, and that means self-isolation and social distancing is more about protecting others rather than yourself. Don't try to run away from the virus and instead be a warrior and become strong yourself. Become strong enough to fight off the virus, and then you can help others who are in the risk group and who are less fortunate and who cannot leave their homes and are more likely to experience detrimental consequences from the virus. Don't join or promote large social gatherings. Keep a certain distance from other people when you have to go out. Wear protective gear like masks and gloves if you can, because every square centimetre of fabric does at least something to lower the risk of transmission. The economic repercussions, of course, they will be awful and they will be irreversible. I don't know what the future of the economy will look like. I don't know how this will affect the discrepancy between the success of large business and smaller businesses. But I do know that in these times it is vital that we support our local businesses, because so much hard work and effort and years of careful investing and creative product optimization and marketing has gone into these items that we can buy and use and take for granted, and all of this will go to waste if we ignore those who can't afford to just shut down everything. Healthy individuals who are not even in the risk group are fighting for their existence. And furthermore, we must not forget about the countless patients who do not suffer from COVID-19, but who urgently require treatment. We need hospital beds, proper medication and doctors for people with all kinds of acutely life-threatening diseases. So the stark focus on the coronavirus makes us negligent in the same way that the rigorous panic surrounding climate change distracted us from the danger of COVID-19 when it was approaching. Yes, I am confident that climate alarmism was a major contributing factor to us being blind to the dangers of COVID-19. And climate alarmists, why is nobody protesting against the use of single-use gloves and disposable masks? Maybe it's because human lives are actually more valuable than your eco-socialism? Or does that only apply when it affects your life specifically? I advise you, in general, with any topic, to steer away from people who are merely spreading panic. Death rates, for example, are skewed by the fact that they include people who have died with COVID-19 but not from the coronavirus. So people who catch the virus and recover safely at home are not even taken into account, and the recovery rate is therefore vastly understated in the news. We are dealing with a disproportionately hyperbolic panic. Once again, it's the same as it was with climate alarmism, which is currently not as popular as the corona panicdemic. But in both cases, we ought to be careful with how we promote a message, with how we talk about these topics rationally, rather than with fear-mongering. Moreover, this global self-isolation actually makes the surge of a second wave of the virus more likely. Self-isolation keeps you healthy, but it also keeps the virus healthy. Panic always makes you susceptible to manipulation. You should not sacrifice your freedom to totalitarian protectionism. You can act responsibly and thus help reduce the global impact of the virus yourself. You do not need a global government to save you from your carelessness. Kindness and compassion, as I said in my last video, do not have to be enforced. And the same goes for caution. I would even go as far as to say that the eye of the hurricane of this global pandemic is not the virus itself, but it is the panic with which it is being spread to ultimately justify policies that will rob you of your liberties forever. We get used to less freedom, slowly but surely. History has proven to us that we get used to the justification of all kinds of injustices and totalitarian control. Panic is a virus to your mind and rationality. People are suddenly trapped in a scarcity mindset and mindlessly hoarding food items and other products in a race against each other. So this fear-mongering will actually lead to the implementation of policies to reward people for exposing their non-compliant neighbours who don't follow social distancing protocols to the T. People hugging in the streets have become criminals. People no longer trust each other because they see everyone else as a potential carrier of the virus. It's like we look at each other as monsters, as the virus themselves. Furthermore, this fear and suspicion will be abused to justify mandatory vaccinations, perhaps even with built-in tracking devices that allow authorities to scan your vaccination status. Bill Gates has mentioned multiple times that in the future, we should always have to keep a record of our vaccinations to be allowed to use certain crucial public services. Interestingly, a similar statement was even edited out of one of his earlier TED Talks, but his current propaganda is no different, as is evident when you look up his project ID 2020. And currently in the media, of course, they are saying there are so many conspiracy theories surrounding ID 2020, but you can just have a look at the the project yourself, and you can make up your own mind and decide, do you really want this? If you just read about the project, you will realize that this is kind of a big threat, a kind of big deal, a threat to our freedom. This is an assault on your individual identity, and it might affect your freedom to travel, to work, and to just exist in public spaces. Vaccines are not inherently bad, but they mask the underlying problem, which is a poor immune system. The Supreme Court has ruled that vaccines are unavoidably unsafe. They are not an ideal solution. So if we can get to the bottom of the problem, that would be a lot better, of course. Mandatory vaccinations for all are a collectivist approach to a problem of general health that we must tackle individually. Obesity, for example, is one of the leading causes of death in the wealthier parts of our global society. In most cases, the key problem, however, is not an excess of nutrients, but rather a lack thereof, a lack of high-quality, proper nutrition. If we understood how to fuel ourselves properly, we would have a lot less problems pertaining to our health. Get enough vitamin D3 and make sure you take it together with a K2 supplement perhaps, and from your diet and the sun. But it's very difficult to get enough vitamin D3 from the sun only, as well as in your diet. So a supplement can be a good idea. Watch your intake of omega-3 versus omega-6 fatty acids and keep a low omega-6 to omega-3 ratio. Don't make it too complicated and buy fresh products from local farmers, which is, especially right now, is a great idea to support your local farmers. Don't buy into unnecessary propaganda from the diet industry or even the World Health Organization, which has repeatedly failed to make us healthier. I will leave some links in the description to some resources on nutrition as well, and then once again you can do your own research. So, to sum up my thoughts on the current situation, there are a million reasons to be cautious when it comes to dealing with a virus. But there are 10 million reasons to be even more careful, to not let terror overtake our rationality and our advocacy for freedom. I myself have to do my diligent research every single day to make sure I don't spread potentially harmful misinformation about the virus. Right now, I am working completely independent and I rely on voluntary donations only. I'm no longer paid for my work right now, to prove that I am doing this completely independently, and I am not anyone's puppet, and I'm not scripted or anything else. I will still continue to work with other organizations, but just on a friendship basis. And if you want to support me, you can do so. I will leave links for donations in the description. Also, I have started a Twitter account, already a couple of months ago, and I'm more active on Twitter right now, so if you want to follow what I'm doing, you may follow me on there. My name on Twitter is @SeibtNaomi. I will put the link in the description as well, and all other accounts are fake. So thank you for listening once again, and the main thing to remember is I do not want you to panic, I want you to think.